On this episode of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher,
we knew where Tiger's fate was going to take him. You just knew that. You could tell. Next thing you know, I get a letter from Jack Nicklaus about Ohio State and why he went there and the goods of the program. Made the cut at the Masters. I won the Northeast Amateur. I made the cut at the U.S. Open. You think he's going to win? I said, think he's going to win? I said, he might win by 10. Well, he won by 15, so I was
holy cow. Oh
yeah,
my.
and Paul says, yeah, I've never seen anything like this.
The greatest sports moments happen in seconds, but the stories behind them are timeless. Dive into the mind of the icons who live those moments. No filters, just authentic conversations about the moments that define careers. I'm Justin Kutcher, and this is the Just in Time podcast. Welcome to another edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher. I am joined now by an 11-time winner on the PGA Tour and also my broadcast partner on Golf Channel. This is John Cook. Cookie, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to see you again. It's been too long since we've called a tournament together, but how are you?
Exactly. No, I'm doing great, Justin. I keep him busy. Yeah, it's been a minute since we have broadcast anything together. Maybe U.S. Open last year.
Yeah, I'm thinking U.S. Open
from
Stanford,
wherever it was in Pinehurst from Stanford. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember saying to you, "Hey, Cookie, you want to play golf?" And you said, "Yeah, let's do it. Where do you want to play?" I don't know. And you go, "How's Winged Foot?" Sounds great.
Let's go. Right.
It was so much fun. And that's what I love about this. I love about this job is the relationships that we can form. And I mean, our first tournament that we worked was the Mexico Open.
Right.
And I will never forget getting off the airport in Mexico, and we're waiting. And I say hi to you, and I see you have a cerveza. And they said, "Would you like one?" I'm like, "Well, I can't let my partner have one alone. So yeah, I got to have one."
We had just met right there, right?
I was like, that would be a really bad first impression. And then we proceeded to have a few more cocktails. I think it was that Saturday with Billy Ray, Smiley Kaufman.
Yep,
in the pool. And Steve and Burko. And yeah, that was a good time. The all-inclusive resort, I think, lost money on us that weekend.
That they did. We made it up for them.
Yeah, exactly. I think we drank them out of tequila, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, good chance.
Cookie, if we can, kind of go back in your playing history, and I think to a couple of different things. One, U.S. Amateur champion. What I didn't realize was that you were in the final the very next year. Oh, there's a trophy. That's awesome.
To have my right there. There you go.
Look at that. So you won it in 1978. What was it like? I mean, that is the ultimate for an amateur.
Yeah. So 78, I'd had a nice year. 77, I was, freshman in college and, kind of learning the ropes, in the summertime playing, big amateur tournaments and played okay, got to the 16s of the USAM. 78, I had a nice college season again, first team All-American, the year before, and, won the Big Ten. And, so I was playing nicely. And going into the summer, I played very well at the Northeast Amateur, which is a big event. Won that. Got played in the. I didn't play the U.S. Open, but had a nice summer. So, but not a great summer. Bobby Clampett was the world #1 by miles. He was as good, maybe a player on the planet, professional or amateur at the time. He was that good. So he was like the big favorite to win. And I had a nice start there at Plainfield, and ended up getting myself into the semifinals and beating Mike Peck in extra holes, and Scott Hoke beat Bobby Clampett in extra holes. And next thing you know, it's Scott and I, not Bobby and somebody else. It's Scott and I, who are really good, top 10 players in the world as far as amateurs go. So it was but I worked really hard, Justin, to be honest. The 2 weeks before, or the week before, I just holed up in my condo there at Muirfield in Dublin, where they
Mhm.
Muirfield
Yep.
Village. And we were members there. I was a member there. My dad was a member there, and I worked hard. Like I was by myself. Like I said, I would just hold myself up. Kind of went into the darkness,
Mhm.
but played golf and practiced all day, every day. So when I got to Plainfield, I was really um, all I did was get ready to play the golf course. A lot preparation wise, like Tiger did back in his day when he was winning everything. That's how he prepared. So when you got to the event, all I did was learn the golf course. I didn't have to worry about my golf swing or the equipment in the bag or anything. This is what I went with. This is what I'm going to play with. Let's learn these greens because Plainfield was all about the greens. So it was a great win. It kind of got me on the map, opened up a lot of doors. The next season got me in the World Series of Golf, which was later in the year at Firestone, which my father was the tournament director there, tournament operator. So that was so much fun to go back to Firestone, where I kind of learned to play as a little tiny kid before we moved to California. So that was very special. The next year, it got me in Doral. It got me in the Bay Hill,
Oh my gosh.
Arnold's event. Also, of course, you got me in the Masters. So it just opened up a lot of U.S. Open the next year. So it just opened a lot of doors for me.
Okay, so there are so many different levels and places that we can go with this. But I want to go back to first that week that you kind of just were in darkness by yourself. What was it in your game that you are working on? What do you think you need to get better at that week?
So I would talk to Ken Venturi in the evenings every day. I forget where he was. I'm sure he was announcing or doing something, but he was in Florida, um, and who I would go see, periodically during the season. So we chatted and just got mentally on the right page. Just not really working on anything. It just making sure that our process and what we were working on, I was being consistent with. I wasn't taking any videos. Obviously, this is 1978. There was none of no little camera behind you or no
Yeah.
GoPro, no nothing. This was like this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing in my head, and this is what I'm talking to Kenny about it in the evenings. Um, so it was that was basically my preparation, and once I got the consistent flight that I liked, that I wanted, the Muirfield Village practice range is second to none. It's ungodly. It's 270-degree, almost full circle driving range or practice area. And I practice on it. Everything. They have greens out there. I was hitting shots into certain spots and just seeing the ball, just, take off out of some certain window and then varying. I just was getting ready and preparing to play. So just kind of honing in on one thing that I could take with me that I knew was going to produce a good golf shot. That's basically what Kenny always said: is just have one swing thought. You know what it's going to do. You know that it's going to produce a good golf shot.
What was that swing thought?
I think for me, it was, we were working on, refining my swing a little bit more as I was growing and getting stronger. I was now only, 19 or 20. So I'm still growing. I was 6 foot and about 145 pounds when I got to school in the late 1976. By fall of 78, I've grown a little bit, and we were just working on my golf swing. And, for me, it's always been the same thing. It's, I tend to get high in my right side. I need to get my right shoulder back. It kind of drops my arm into place. And then just making sure I kept turn my back to the target, take the, arms and hands out of it, just turn, and then just spin to the finish. Basically, just get that club back there and then just turn to the finish. So I had 7 solid days of hitting great practice balls and then taking it out in the evenings and going to play, and just taking it out on the golf course and, playing Muirfield. I figured if I was ready to play Muirfield Village, I'd be ready to play about anywhere.
So, how much confidence did you have going into that 1978 US Amateur?
Yeah, it was a great confidence boost. The summer had gone nicely, not great, but nicely. Um, and I think that just that week by myself, really not seeing anybody, didn't go into campus, to go out at night. I really was, determined to be ready to play when I got to Plainfield. So it was no, it's just it just felt good. I think because I knew I was doing, and one thing my dad always told me, being an ex football coach, was you have to look at yourself in the mirror. Am I doing the right thing? Am I honestly doing the right thing, and looking yourself right in the eyes and say, yeah, yeah, I pretty much am. I think I am. I pretty much did all I could do. Um, and I was honest with myself. I was
That's
ready.
awesome.
Yeah, it
It's
was
it's
cool.
I mean, it's life-changing, right? You win the US Amateur, it's life-changing. You
Yeah.
talked about getting the chance to go play Augusta and the Masters.
Yeah,
So,
and actually, quite frankly, just when I got to college, I knew I was a nice player. Obviously, I was a good player. Um, I didn't know where I was going to go in this game. Honestly, I didn't. I was a finance major. I started, taking all my business classes my first, my freshman year and sophomore year. I followed up with all the, everything I was going to need. I didn't know. This kind of set my path maybe a little bit different direction, but I still
uh
didn't really know until the next year.
until the next year, you go back to the final, which I didn't realize until I was looking into this, and you ended up sorry to bring up a bad memory, but you lost to Marco Mira, who everyone knows who Marco Mira is, but you made it back to the final the next year. I mean, that had to give you a ton of confidence.
Yeah, my summer, actually my year in '79, I think I surpassed Bobby as the world number one. That's how good a summer that I had. I, made the cut at the Masters. I won the Northeast Amateur, for the second consecutive time. I made the cut at the U.S. Open. I got to the finals of the Broadmoor. Uh, won the Porter Cup. So I was having a heck of a summer, and going into the USAM, I kind of did the same thing. I just kind of shut myself off for the world, and I got ready to go play. The problem was my early matches, my draw. Holy smokes! I beat tour players and played a Hall of Famer in the final, and man, and it was rough. Honestly, I think I might have run out of gas a little bit. Mark played really, really well. I didn't have my A game, but you know what? He certainly did, and he walked me in pretty early.
I did notice that as well. I was like, "Oh, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna mention that."
there was
Okay.
a slimmer of hope after I won the 10th hole that maybe I could scratch it out and like get to 14 or 15. That didn't quite work out that way.
You mentioned Ken Venturi. You worked with him. How did that come about? I mean, this is a legend in the game of golf.
Yeah, he was such a great man, and I was so very fortunate to meet him when I was 14 years old at Mission Hills Country Club. He had just started he had just opened the golf course, and he was a big racing fan. And at that time, my father went from being a college football, high school and college football coach, to working for Firestone Tire and Rubber, and he was the head of the racing department. And he would always see Kenny at races, and they struck up a nice friendship. And my dad invited Ken to Laguna Seca, where they were doing some tire testing, because Kenny had one of the original AC Cobras, um, and so my dad said, "Hey, you bring your Cobra up to Laguna Seca. We're tire testing. We'll throw some tires on your car and let you run around the track a bit." And then so he had the time of his life, obviously. um, Kenny, in his way, said, "Hey, Jim, if I could ever do something for you, you just let me know." He said, "Yeah, you know what, Kenny, we just did join Mission Hills Country Club. I got a, 14-year-old son that's a, pretty good player. He's, done this and done that, whatever. I played football and basketball as well as raced motorcycles. I was a nice player, but there was kids way better than me. Hey, do you mind if take a look at my son?" And Kenny's kind of going, "Oh God, what did I open up?" And so I met him on the practice putting green. We heard his Cobra come through the front gate, and you can't
That's
hardly
awesome.
miss that. And, he kind of, slides into his parking spot, one of those things. I'm on the practice putting green with my dad. And anybody that knows Mission Hills, it has not changed. It's grown, and there's more trees and more courses, but that around that area is identical to what it was in 1972. So I had my OP shorts on. I had, pretty long blonde hair, it probably just got, weekend before, probably went on a surf trip or something. I got my OP shorts on. I got, you know, pretty long hair, and I got my bags on my shoulder backwards, like a 14-year-old punk.
Yeah.
So I put the bag down, and Kenny comes walking out like he is, just dressed perfectly. He's got beautiful slacks on, a great, golf shirt, and here I am with my shirt tail hanging out and OP shorts, and he kind of, looked me up and down like this. But he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. And so we met, and we were very cordial, and said, "Hey, I've got about 30 minutes of work to do up in my office. Why don't I'll meet you down on the practice tee. But first, why don't you walk around the practice area and just kind of chip the balls back in, because my members hit the ball all over the place. So there's balls out in the desert. At that time, it was range and desert. There was nothing else. And so I walked around the range, and I pitched balls back in, and, kind of took my spot over there on the left side of the range, is where he wanted to always kind of meet, on the left side of the range. Um, I'll tell you why, later on, but we just struck up a great friendship. Later on, I learned that he didn't go to his office. He got in his golf cart and went behind the range shed and watched me go around the practice area, pitch these balls in. And later on, he told me, "You want to know why I did that?" He said, I've always been curious on why." He said, "It's just to see if you're going to listen to me." I went, "Wow, why would I not listen to you?"
Yeah.
You learn from Hogan and Nelson. I'm a 14-year-old punk trying to learn the game. And we had a great session. Honestly, he saw some potential in me. We worked on a couple, little things. As 14 years old, I'm probably didn't weigh 130 pounds, and I still was almost 6 foot tall at the time. So it just was, just I developed just being around him, playing a lot of golf with him, and it's a relationship that lasted, over, almost 50 years, before he passed in 2013. So 40 plus years. Um, so it was. I've, I've been blessed in this game, but to have met him and have him be my one and only mentor, teacher, all the way till he couldn't physically do it any longer. Um, we just talked and played, and we played thousands of holes of golf together. And I just observed him. And one time, he always went to the left side of the tee. And I always wondered why he did that. He says, because it acted as a barrier, as a wall down the left-hand side. I never wanted to miss the ball left. And I went, "Oh, left side of the tee at the practice tee. I get it now." So,
Why didn't he
those are
want
the
to miss
things
it?
you do.
Why didn't he want to miss it left?
It just was, he was afraid of that. It was like Hogan, when he got, working on his golf swing, he never wanted to hit another hook unless he was trying to hit a draw. Then we would do that. We would practice draws from over there as well. So he just didn't. He felt like the left side of just eliminate one side of the golf course. I'm going to eliminate the left. And I said, "Okay, yes, sir. I will do that too." So
And
I've
that
always
was
tried
the
to eliminate the left-hand side. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's what you did the rest of your career, I imagine.
Yeah, I didn't miss it left very often. A few times. We can go back and pull some stuff up. A couple shots I didn't want to hit to the left that I did, but other than that, that's how I learned. I was so blessed to have Kenny in my as part of my life. Yeah.
I can only imagine, Ken Venturi, obviously playing career, broadcasting career, just a legend. So, did you ever get a chance to talk to him? What it was like for him to broadcast you doing playing in a tournament,
Yeah.
playing at the Masters?
Yeah, we did that. We did that a lot. I'd go out to dinner with him, almost every night. He and Frank Chikinian and Lance Barrow at the time, and whoever, it was either Summerall or Nance was, he worked with, and almost not quite every night, but most nights that I was alone, I'd get asked out to dinner with them. So it was always, great to just listen to them. But yeah, Kenny and I had some great talks, some stories of, that his stories never changed. It was always the same, verbatim. I could basically recite the match. And that story hadn't changed in the 40 years we were together. So, just some of those. He was a really honest guy. He didn't get along with everybody. But if you were in his crew or in his group, he would do anything for you. And basically, I could always count on Kenny and his great wife, Bo. Took great care of Jan and I, our kids when they were growing up. They were great to them. So I was very blessed.
It's amazing. I've had the honor of working with people like you and hearing certain stories about who their mentors were. For me, my mentor in the business is Joe Buck.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
That's it. See, that's crazy to me. That I go, Joe Buck. I mean, that's now we start getting on, just our stories and our personal stories. And I'm just looking at you going, man, you've done this and you did that. And now Joe Buck was your guy. I mean, wow.
well, here's a funny story. This picture right here,
Yeah.
that was taken in the press box at Yankee Stadium, 2003, ALCS, Game 7, Yankees and Red Sox. As they're getting ready, I'm in the booth and I'm like, I just got to take a picture. And so I took that
So
picture
awesome.
and that's what it is. And like you've been so blessed to have Ken Venturi. I've been so blessed to have Joe Buck as my mentor. He did the intro to my original resume tape.
Oh,
And
man,
I
that's
still
so
remember
cool.
to this day. I mean, he's like, I've had the pleasure of working with Justin Kutcher year after year during the postseason. He could not have been a bigger help. With that being said, it is I to introduce to you the broadcast stylings of Justin Kutcher.
No,
And
no
I was
kidding.
like, where, yep. I mean, that
You
is
put
it.
that on your message machine too, your
That
voicemail.
should be my voicemail. Yeah, you're right. You know what? I think I might make that change.
Note to self. Yeah.
That and the other cool part was the old PA announcer at Yankee Stadium was Bob Shepard, and people called Bob Shepard the voice of God. I don't know if you ever went to a game at Yankee Stadium,
Yeah.
but his voice was amazing. So when I'm in college, I'm working and I got to meet him, and I said, Mr. Shepard, would you mind making uh, just recording some intros for the radio station? He's like, oh, sure. And I went in with him, and he's like, you know, you're listening to WTBU, Boston. And so he does this whole thing, right?
The
So
stylings.
I then had one more written out, and I go, Mr. Shepard, you don't have to do this, but it's been a dream of mine since I was a little kid. And he looks at the script and he's like, ha, ha, ha. Now batting, second baseman, number 12,
12.
Justin Kutcher, number 12. And I was like, oh, and I
Yeah.
would play that all the time. That might be my new voicemail.
That is so cool. Yeah, that's great.
So, I mean, these are the stories, but Ken Venturi, Jack Nicklaus, he's been huge in your life. You guys are both Buckeyes. How did that all transpire?
Yeah, again, it was I qualified for the USAM in 1974. I was 16. It was at Ridgewood, and so going back, I let's see, I don't know how I was paired. This is just a at random pairing for a practice round. I put my name down with a player named Fritz Schmidt and another player named Mike Good. As it turns out, they played at Ohio State. They were just really good amateurs. They weren't in
Yeah.
college any longer, but they were just really good amateurs, and they were both. And so I got kind of just paired with them. And we got talking about, how old are you? I go 16. Said, hey, you ever think about, what, you're gonna go to school or anything? And I go, well, yeah, a little bit. And my dad was a football coach at Ohio State, and he kind of went, oh, wow, okay. So one thing came to another, and I won a match. I beat I beat O. Gordon Brewer, who now is the captain of Pine Valley.
Oh,
So,
okay. Yeah.
and he was a really good amateur way back in the time. So,
So wait, so does that mean you've never been allowed to go play Pine Valley?
every time I do go back and play, well, Mr. Brewer kind of comes out and meets me. So, lo and behold, not too much later, the coach contacts me. Coach Jim Brown was a new coach at Ohio State at the time. Um, he was out, just recruiting, and he contacted me, and so I was kind of on his radar. I think I was after my sophomore year of high school, going into my junior year. So it was kind of kept in contact. Next thing you know, I get a letter from Jack Nicklaus, about Ohio State and why he went there and the goods of the the program, and of course the school itself. And he knew I had a tie with my dad, who coached under Woody Hayes. So he knew the tie, and the tie is strong. Yeah, the tie is strong. That blood, even being in Southern California, we bled scarlet and gray out there in Trojan Nation for all that time. Then as time kind of went on, I won the state amateur the next year, and which got me a amateur spot alongside a professional at the Bing Crosby. And Jack came up and introduced himself, and that whole thing. So it just was, a great relationship that I had with Jack, all through that time. Still to this day, whenever we see each other, it goes way back. The Nicklaus Cook relationship goes far back. So it was something. He's been really good to us as well.
Be honest. When you
Yeah,
see him now, first thing you guys talk about, Ohio State football or golf?
football. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Oh, I haven't seen him since the national championship run. So just wait till I get to see him. It's going to be, hey, baby, I'll pull all my new, national championship garb of my Ohio. It doesn't say OSU. It just says national championship stuff on it now.
It's funny because you took a sip of a cup before, and it's Ohio State. Your yardage book is always Ohio State.
Oh, it's everything. I got my watch. It's stupid. I look at that. I mean, here's my Yeti cup. Here's my
Yeah,
Yeti.
right
I don't have
there.
the new and I don't have the national championship one yet, but it's in the mail.
You know what? Now that you've been on this podcast, that's going to be coming in the mail for you.
Oh,
They're going to be like,
geez.
"Oh my gosh, I can't believe John Cook doesn't have one of these yet. We got to send it
Yeah.
to him."
Yeah, seriously, right? Right.
So Ken Venturi, Jack Nicklaus, two guys that you've been close with throughout really the majority of your life, which is remarkable. What was Jack's reaction to you when you first came onto the PGA Tour?
He was great. He and Tom Weiskopf both. Tom was pretty instrumental in me going to school as well. But Jack was always, he was always right there. I didn't ever wanted to bother him, or I never wanted to, get in his way, or ask for too much, or every once in a while we would play a practice round because I was still living at Muirfield once Jan and I got married in 1979. By 1981 I still had the condo there, so we just moved there. So we were young newlyweds playing the PGA Tour. And the Nicklauses were great to us, especially Barbara to Jan. She was the mentor for all these young wives on the PGA Tour. She was, an absolute. She couldn't have been more help. Honestly, took everybody under her wing, and what to expect, and she was great. Jack always made himself available. If I ever wanted to play a practice round, or give him a ring. He was always available. I can't say enough about how great Jack was to me.
So, did you kind of have this sense of paying it forward because you got to kind of welcome a young guy, I guess you could say a young cub, Tiger Woods. You guys were at Isleworth together, and you guys played a ton of golf there. How did that happen? And did you feel like you were able to kind of mentor him in any way?
Maybe a little. One thing that Venturi always said, my dad always offered to pay Ken for his time. And Kenny said, "Oh, I can't take any money from you. Are you kidding? I can't. This is one of my best friends. I can't do that." But Kenny always told me that at some point, when you have a chance to give back to a young professional, be open, be giving. If you're still playing, and you don't have to give them all the secrets, but you can give them a lot. And when Tiger came out in '96, we were still living in California. But Mark O'Mara and kind of was the chosen one to become Tiger's kind of mentor. So we just played a lot of practice rounds together. I was always out, and I played with Mark and Tiger every single week that we were all playing together. And we just got kind of chatting and talking, and we played more golf in '97 and '98, '99. We moved back to Florida, moved to Isleworth, and that's when we started to play a lot of golf together. And we knew where Tiger's fate was going to take him. You just knew that, you could tell. And he kicked it into another gear kind of in '99, late '99. He started learning more and more stuff, more and more shots. He wanted to learn control wedge shots, and he always admired and respected my game, and picked my brain about wedges and short irons, and how can I be more consistent, and not to spin the ball that so much. He just really wanted to go next level, and we just started chatting about wedge play, when, how, why, when to maybe take out a little 9-iron instead of a pitching wedge, or taking out a pitching wedge instead of a full nuke 56 degree or whatever, and just started learning more and more stuff. And he was never afraid to ask questions. He respected you for what you did and how you played. He just wanted to pick your brain about a little bit more stuff. So it just that as great as '99 was for Tiger, that year 2000, it was going to be different, and it was different.
So you knew in '99 that 2000 would be different.
Yeah, he just was comprehending all this stuff, and Mark and I were watching him just prepare, and how he prepared for every single event. It was pretty mind boggling, and we just went, well, this is a whole different deal now. This guy, and we've seen some great players, and we're going to see some great players, but this one is different.
When did you
could tell.
know? When did you know that this guy? Yeah, he's pretty special.
Just I think in the year 2000, you just started to see that his game was better and different than it was in '99. And I forget how many times he won in '99, but it was a lot. And he started out 2000, kind of in that mode. And he started controlling things, controlling spin and controlling trajectory with short irons. And I went, oh boy, here we go. This is different now. Watch out. And he just pretty well took off. It was crazy. And I remember playing practice rounds with him at Pebble Beach in 2000. Mark and I, and then somebody else would join us. But that Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday late morning, we never played in the afternoon. We played it,
Yeah.
5 minutes before sunlight. And Paul Goidos was our fourth that day. He joined up with us, and we'd now seen it for 2 days. How good this was going to be, and we were all playing pretty good. I came off a nice finish at Westchester the week before, so I was playing pretty well. And I wasn't playing like this though. We were seeing some stuff that we were trying to figure out Pebble, and Tiger's just walking, going through the motions. He was just absorbing everything. And we got to the 12th hole, and by that time Johnny Miller had come out. And Mark and I and Paul, we're trying to land these 3-irons on the green on the 12th hole, and either land it just over the bunker to try to keep it out of the back bunker, or do we have to hit it out to the right and use some? So we didn't know what to do. Tiger's got the 6-iron out, and he's just hitting these moon balls, landing on the green, and like taking one check and just holding the green. And we're going, this is not even fair. It's not fair. And so we get up to the green, and Johnny Miller comes over. I think Paul Goydos and I are standing next to each other, and he goes, "What do you think?" I go, "Man, Pebble is awesome. This is Pebble. This is about as good as it's going to get." He says, "No, how about our guy over there? What, think he's got a chance? You think he's going to win?" I said, "Think he's going to win?" I said, "He might win by 10." Well, he won by 15, so I was
Holy
dead wrong.
cow. Oh
Yeah,
my.
and Paul says, "Yeah, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen golf played like this. You know, and we've never seen this before. Not in our lifetime, not in our tour experience." And yeah, sure enough, it was. Yeah, he won by 15.
So you said that. What was Johnny Miller's reaction?
He goes, "Oh no, really? What do you mean?" I said, Just you're gonna see it. You're gonna see why." So he followed the next extra couple holes, and it wasn't like he just, the 13th hole, he drove it down there and hit a wedge in the green. It didn't spin off the front. It just kind of held there. 14, he hit a driver and like a 2-iron on the green on the 14th. Nobody reached that green
Right.
at 2. Nobody ever. And he's hitting it in there. And so Miller left, and I probably had to go to meetings or something. And yeah, sure enough, it was the future was right there.
That's amazing. Now, so does this mean, if I understood this correctly, Tiger was picking your brain about how to control wedges,
Yeah,
sometimes taking it down. So were you the guy that taught him how to
oh,
flight the ball?
I I can't take all the credit, but I'm sure, he and Butch worked on the same thing, and he had picked Mark's brain too. And he always complimented me on my wedge play. And "Hey man, you I remember watching the Bob Hope, on TV, and you won that big playoff, and then you hit this, you hit these shots and these pitches, and you controlled your wedges." And I played with him early in '97 at La Costa. We were paired together at the Tournament Champions. Used to be the first event at La Costa. And I then won the next week at Indian Wells for the Bob Hope. Um, then he goes, "Man, I watched you come." He didn't play that year, but "I watched you come down the stretch. Man, those wedges. Man, you were controlling those wedges." So he's always talked about, Indian Wells final round, Bob Hope Classic, controlling wedges and all. This was in '97. He
Right.
wasn't doing it then. He was hitting wedges from 160 yards and all that. But later on, we started talking about, so when did certain shots, and he just wanted to know. He wanted to soak it in.
This so cool. And of course, in '97, he went on to win the Masters, the
Yeah,
first one
big
for
way
him.
by
Yeah.
18 shots or whatever that was.
I mean,
Although,
just absurd. And
yeah,
you and I were broadcasting, I don't know what tournament it was, but we were talking about chipping around the greens. And you said actually a lot of times you would practice chipping on the green.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, wait, what? You're like, that's how you know you're chipping it correctly.
Yeah. If you're not taking any turf.
Yeah. So obviously every greenskeeper does not want to hear
You
us
don't
talk
wanna hear
about
that,
this.
right?
But you then told me that Tiger would sit for hours on the green with wedges and you would not know afterwards he was there.
Oh, no. He learned, instead of taking big gouging divots with wedges and short clubs and, around the greens, to being a real clipper of the golf ball. And you can tell, when he's pitching the ball now, he hardly takes any turf at all, rarely. And even with short clubs, um, wedges, controlling distance, controlling spin, controlling trajectory. Venturi always told me that you control your distance by controlling your trajectory and spin, because you don't want anything coming back at you. So he was always, hit it to hole high, and keep it there, hole high, hole high. Great wedge players and great iron players are always hole high. They're not uphill putting at it or long. They're always right around hole high. So that's something we talked about a lot, and that's what Tiger wanted to learn.
So you moved down to Isleworth. You, O'Meara, Tiger play a lot. What was a typical game? What was the game? Because there had to be
We didn't
something
gamble much.
really.
Honestly, we didn't gamble much. We were just more challenging. And I think at that time, Mark and I, we were just happy to be tag-alongs, if it and getting our game in better shape. I think our game lasted a few more years because of the years that we spent around Tiger. Because if we weren't playing any good, we weren't invited to go play. That's for sure. It wasn't, if we were chopping around the day before, it wasn't hey, let's meet at 8 o'clock in the morning. No, it's like, hey, you guys have a good day. See you when we see you. It
Yeah.
was always, what time are you meeting tomorrow? I said, well, must be doing something right because I keep getting invited back.
That's so good. Now, I was again just doing some research and looking at different things. Your first two wins came in playoffs. So I just want to know, obviously, you had all these wins as an amateur. How much confidence did you take from those wins as an amateur to get your first win or first couple of wins on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't win my rookie season in 1980. I had a couple chances. I was in the final group a couple times. I learned a lot. I didn't close it out in Philadelphia my rookie season. I forget. I think maybe Doug Toole won that event, but I learned a lot. Um, I played in the final group with Gil Morgan in Boston. I didn't get it done then, but he did, and I'm learning from veterans now, so I'm taking all
What
these
what what were
experiences.
you learning in those
Just
experiences?
getting ahead of myself, um, playing the proper shots, just learning in those situations. And Venturi always talked about being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Well, I was that way as an amateur, but this was a little different. This was playing for a living, newly married, and we're traveling the tour together, and we're both learning things. So this is now learning this part of the game. So the next time I got in that situation was in the early part of the year in '81 at the Bing Crosby. It was a weird event because we didn't start till Saturday and we finished on a Monday, and we played the three courses, and everybody's kind of finishing, and next thing you know, okay, all the seven unders meet on the first tee at Pebble Beach. You're in a playoff. There's five of us. um, that playoff had Bobby Clampett. It had Hale Irwin, Ben Crenshaw, myself, and a player named Barney Thompson, 6'5" West Virginian, that would look like he could take us all on and just throw us all over the wall in the ocean. He was a good, handsome, really athletic, 6'5" strong guy that had never been in this position before. So, the five of us took off down the first tee, first fairway at Pebble, and I came out the winner. So that was, beginning of my rookie season or my second season. So it took me a little over a year to win, but I got used to winning then. I
Yeah.
closed
And
it
then your
out.
next win, if I'm not mistaken, was in a playoff
Yeah,
against Johnny Miller?
against Johnny Miller at Glen Abbey, the Canadian Open, 1983. So I think my match play background helped me in playoffs, um, and I was comfortable, one on one, and so I think that helped me. And I had four chances to close Johnny out in the playoff, 16, 17, and 18 at Glen Abbey. And I missed, you know, pretty makeable putts, inside 10, 12 feet. Of course, he had that chance on the fifth playoff hole, about a 15-footer, and he missed it, gave me new light. And I had about a 6-footer on 18 for birdie. He did not make a birdie, and I was not gonna miss this one.
Mm, man, at what point did you know, like, I'm here. I'm good enough to be a PGA Tour player?
I think that kind of showed me. I think after the first win, um, I backed it up with a fourth place finish at the U.S. Open at Marion later in the summer. I finished high on the money list that year. If back then you had a 3-year waiting period before you could make points to make a Ryder Cup team. But in '81, I would have made the Ryder Cup team in '81. So that would have been a great honor, but I couldn't. I had to wait. But So it was kind of then, and then, I didn't play great in 82, but 83, I dedicated myself the fall of 82. And I came out and I played really well in 83.
All right, so you mentioned the Ryder Cup. You were on the 93 Ryder Cup team, which was played at the Belfry in England. It's the last time that the Americans have won the Ryder Cup
Right.
on European
You
soil,
believe
which
that?
is crazy.
It's going to be 35 years.
What was it like? Because so the previous Ryder Cup, was that the War on the Shore
It was, yeah.
at Kiowa?
Kiowa, right.
Yep. Okay, so now you go
The
and
tensions were a little high at the Belfry.
so bring me inside the ropes, like those tensions, that whole feeling of what it is to play in the Ryder Cup on foreign soil when everyone is rooting against you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't play a Walker Cup. I was chosen, but I had to decline the spot. That's a whole nother story. Um, but I was always into team stuff. I played football and basketball. I was a team guy. We won the NCAAs at Ohio State, our golf team. So I was a team guy. I got it. I understood it. So going there, we had I was playing good. I'd just come off like a top 5 finish in the PGA at Inverness. So I was playing you know good at the time. I had not won that year, but I was playing all right. I was playing fine. Um, so I just being part of that team and being the team together. Um, flying over on the Concord, meeting at the White House. Meeting President Clinton. um, then flying over on the Concord, and we just did everything as a team. We just went here and there and there, and the wives were all part of this. It wasn't like, so we had dinner, um, team dinner every night. The 26 of us, I guess, um, with wives and players only,
Mhm.
in a big room, and we told stories and personal experiences and got to really to know each other. So once the once the matches started, we were ready to go. Yeah, it was an incredible experience.
Was that the closest you ever came to like having that adrenaline of a football game?
Yeah, yeah, I would say that. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah, that was, um, it was a different adrenaline than like hitting your first tee ball at Augusta, your first trip around there. It was different than that. That was a high that I mean, there's more stories of my week of prep before that Augusta, and then the week of, my preparation there was amazing. But yeah, I think that, the feelings that you had, at the Ryder Cup and hitting your first tee ball in your first match, that was as pumped up as I can remember. Taking the field, and throwing that first pass, or making that first tackle, or whatever. Yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar.
Biggest moment in that Ryder Cup for you was what?
So I didn't, Chip Beck and I didn't play until Saturday afternoon. Like, so we sat out the first match Friday morning. We sat out the second match, the afternoon matches. Um, Tom Watson kept telling us, "Hey guys, just be ready. You're going to get your shot. You're going to get your shot. Just be ready." And then we got the pairings for Saturday morning, and we weren't in. But Chip and I, we played some holes. We could play the golf course, so we were ready to go in. So this is, we're hitting balls on the practice tee. Saturday, kind of after the matches are kind of get over. It's pretty close. I think we're down a point, or maybe a point, maybe 2 points at that time. I forget how the matches were going. So Tom Watson, Captain Watson, comes up. We're just standing there together. He goes, "Okay, guys, you ready?" And we went, "Yeah, let's go." "What do we got?" He goes, "You got Faldo and Montgomerie, the anchor match, at 140 or whatever it was. So you guys ready?" Go, "Damn straight, Cap. We're in. We're ready to go." And this is like, oh my God, this is a sacrificial lamb. So, we can. we can, salvage if we can, give up a point, I think we might have been tied or something, or 1 point down. And, I think we could come back from 2 points down. And so that's what people were thinking.
Yeah.
Chip and I were having none of it. And it was a best ball. And Faldo makes a putt on the first hole, about a 30-footer for birdie. And I topped him. And this was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute now. They think, okay, this is going to be a 6-5 match or a 5-4 match. And we got around to, I think it was the third or fourth hole. I forget the golf course. And I've got it in there about 12 feet for birdie. And they've got it, both of them have it like 20 footers or something. And Chip is already up there and he's got a, whatever putt for par. He's going to make a par. And I'm standing behind my ball and say, hey, Chip, come on over here. Let's take have a look at this. He goes, I don't need to do that to you. He goes, you're a top 10 player in the world. Look at those guys. You got the 1 and the 3rd player in the world and 2 caddies reading these putts, and they don't know they're all confused. He said, I don't need to help you. And sure enough, they missed it and I made it. And we go 1-up in the match now. Now we just kept topping them. And we're 1-up going into 18. And I hit a really good drive and Faldo hit a good drive and Monty, we all hit good drives. And Monty kind of pull hooks it over there on the 9th green and Faldo hits it in the left bunker and Chip's got it up on the green somewhere. And I hit like this 4-iron, one of the best shots I've ever hit, and just flagged this thing about 10 feet. And, they're not getting it up and down. And Faldo, he misses some putt for par and he just says, pick it up. And I went, whoa, shoot, we just won the match.
Yes.
And I remember Lanny Watkins being like the first one out to congratulate us because he wasn't playing in the afternoon. So, but that's how close this team was.
So Lanny Watkins is congratulating you, the first one.
Yeah.
What were the rest of the teammates doing when?
Yeah, same thing. It just,
I mean, did that just fire you guys up even more? Like you just took them down.
I think instead of going like 3 points down, I think we were only 2 points down, or we went from being 1 point down or something. I think we were 2 points down after the afternoon matches, except for our match, and that got us within a point.
So you
Instead of going
mentioned
3 down, we went only 1 down.
You mentioned how you guys did everything together. You flew over on the Concord, which is that's a nice flex.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. You fly over the Concord. You go to dinners. It's all your the team, the players, the wives together for every meal. Why do you think? I've heard from other people that the Americans don't do it that way anymore.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little disconnect nowadays. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. I don't know. I haven't been to a Ryder Cup in years, so I talk to the players, and I talk to Patrick Cantley a lot, and Jamie Mulligan, is Patrick's coach and one of my best friends. So I get to hear a little bit. I don't think it's quite as you hear. I think it's a little more connected than what you hear. But it does seem like there's a little bit of disconnect, maybe preparing to go. I think they all go over together, but it's not like they're playing the week before or 2 weeks before. There's like nothing. They're not playing in the same events, so I think there's a little bit of a disconnect there, maybe preparation wise. But I think they'll be all right. I think they're all right.
I got a chance to speak with Robert Carlson last year about it, and I asked him the question, and he said, "Can I be honest?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "The Europeans actually like each other."
Not gonna argue there. I know there's some personality conflicts sometimes.
I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow, all right."
I think that with us, I think that was really instilled on a message from Tom, is that we're checking these egos right here in this basket. We're just leaving it all right here. There was no social media. There was no cell phones. There was no nothing. This is what we have.
Let's go back. You said you had a great story about your preparation for Augusta?
Yeah. So in 79, so like the 2 weeks before, it was like our spring break.
Yeah.
You hear that scratching? It's our dog. He's an Australian Labradoodle, and his name is Kenny.
I love it. Is that after Ventura?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Venturi, excuse me.
yeah. So it was my spring break, um, and I was going out to I was to Mission Hills, where we still had a place while I was in college, and so we I got invited to play in the as an amateur in the Dinah Shore.
Okay.
And I was the U.S. amateur champion. So, and I was, they're playing at my home club, and so I was just going to um, get ready there, play in the pro-ams. I played with Nancy Lopez one day, and I forget who I played with the second day. And then I just stuck around for the weekend. I was going to fly out Sunday to Augusta, and so I just stuck around the whole that weekend. And short backstory, I proposed to Jan on April Fool's Day, during that week, which I think was Thursday or Friday.
A nice move on April
Yeah, nice
Fools to
move,
do
right?
that.
Yeah, yeah. So she can kind of play that card anytime she wants, right? So, but so I'm all excited about that, and then, but I'm preparing to play Augusta. I get the back end of the range. The professional at the time allowed me to just you just use the back of the range. You won't get in anybody's way. It's 400 yards long. You can't I'm not going to hit balls down there. And I remember, I forget who it was, but one of the players, and I knew a lot of the players. I was around there all the time. So here's this little kid, John Cook's finally grown up, and now he's won the U.S. Amateur, but he's still around. So I knew a lot of the players. Judy Rankin was a great friend, and Jenny Blaylock, Laura Baugh. I mean,
Which is Eric Cole's mom.
Eric Cole's mom. Yeah,
Yeah.
we kind of grew up in the same area together, and she, we played junior golf together. So I knew her when she was playing, and so I'm just hitting balls down at the other end of the range, and they got a nice little practice green out there. So I'm pitching and get bunker shots. I'm 400 yards away, and I got done maybe hitting some drivers that maybe got within 100 yards. One thing leads to another, and this one pro didn't like that there was somebody else on the other side of the range practicing. She didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. I didn't care. And she got in a golf cart and drove around, and kind of start pointing her finger at me. And her name, I think Janet Anderson. She won like a U.S. Open or something. I didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And she goes, "What are you doing down here?" I said, "Well, I have permission to practice down here. I'm getting ready for a tournament next week." She goes, "Oh, a tournament next week? The only tournament next week is the Masters." I said, "Yeah, I'm in the Masters next week." And she kind of went, "Oh, just don't hit into us," or some snide thing. I said, "She got in a cart and drove back." And I went, "Okay." So I get back to Augusta, and Sunday night I stay in the Crow's Nest.
Yep.
Just the one night we had rented a house. My family and Jan's family were all coming. So my practice rounds starting Saturday morning or Monday morning with Kenny, because he could still play. He could practice on the golf course. He was a former U.S. Open champion. And Tom Weiskopf and Ed Sneed. And this is 1979. And as the week goes on, I'm playing practice rounds every day with these guys, playing the par 3 with Kenny and Tom, and then comes the tournament. I played pretty well, make the cut, played my first round with Gary Player. He was the defending champion, and I shot 71. Then made the cut, and then Ed Sneed was the one that goes on and has that 3-shot lead with 3 to play, and loses to Fuzzy in a playoff. So a great week of preparation.
Wow.
Watching, a couple of my idols, watching Kenny could still really play at the time. And of course, Weiskopf was one of the best in the game. So it was fun.
And you're paired with Gary Player.
First round, yeah.
First
I
round.
actually, later that fall in the U.S. Amateur, I played Wayne Player, his son, in the first round.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
That's
knew Mr. Player because Wayne was over playing a lot of summer events, some amateur events. He was quite a good player. So got to know Mr. Player through that. Now I'm paired with him the first round.
Did the fact that you were around Ken Venturi so much, did that take that starstruck aspect out of it for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. That had a lot to do with being comfortable, being around the great players. Plus, I had played in some professional events earlier that year. But yeah, definitely with him, what to expect, how you're going to feel in the first tee. I mean, everything. I mean, he laid it right down.
All right, so how did you feel that first tee teeing off
Exactly like he
Thursday?
thought. Said, you're going to run off that practice putting green. At that point, it was down to the first tee because
Uh-huh.
the first tee now is about 50 yards back of where it was in 1979. He just said, take your time. Take your time. Soak it all in. Soak it all in on that first tee. Look at all the people. Look at the scoreboard down there. You look at and then refocus. And whatever that thought was for the week says, just get up on that first tee, take a nice deep breath, go ahead and go. That was, man, it was thrilling.
And where'd that first tee ball end up?
Yeah, I hit a good one. Yeah, I hit a good one. Hit it right out there with Mr. Player. So back then with persimmon balls or
Yeah,
persimmon clubs and steel shafts and whatever McGregor tourney ball I was playing at the time.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. So what is the most nervous you've ever been on a tee shot?
That's probably that first tee ball at the Ryder Cup at the Belfry on Saturday afternoon. In fact, I was like so nervous. I walking off the putting green. I was like so excited that I saw my wife. I saw Jan, and she says, "John, are you okay?" I went, "Yeah, I'm ready. I'm so ready." She goes, "Just slow down," and she gave me a piece of gum, and I'd never chewed gum on the golf course ever. And she said, "Just chew this. Just take your time. Chew this. Don't chomp on it. Just chew this. Relax yourself a little bit." And say, why do guys pay all this money for psychologists when you got your wife just chew this
Yeah,
stick of
chew
gum?
this gum. It's juicy fruit.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. I think it was actually. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about this. So your wife noticed that you were hyped up. She got you to relax. Talking to you right now, hanging around you, you're one of the nicest guys in the world. You told me as a player, you could run hot, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You're the son of a football coach. You played football.
It's pretty
You
competitive.
you got to have that intensity.
Yeah.
So, biggest explosions you've had on the golf course?
Oh man. In college, in amateur golf, I wasn't that way. And even like early part of my professional career, for some reason, I kind of clicked into this bad Johnny over here. As it got known to be, someone started calling me Chucky. I think the great Gary Williams termed it uh, intermittent explosive disorder. AED. I called it situational Tourette's. Anytime I'd get inside yellow ropes, I just would like start to like verbally lose my mind. I just was really hard on myself. Honestly, I was my own worst enemy. I'll be quite honest. The the one thing I regret, I wish I was a little nicer to myself through all those years. I might have won more, might have won, maybe a major or two, or maybe more than that. I had my moments, honestly. I'm not proud of a lot of them, honestly. The only time I ever got fined, which is amazing, I didn't even deserve it, but I ended up paying it anyway because I said of all the times I should have been fined, and wasn't. This
Yeah.
one I shouldn't have been fined, but you know what? I'm going to pay this fine anyway. So,
What was it for?
final round of the LA Open one year. I think I was like maybe first off the back nine on Sunday, so kind of right in the middle of the pack. And this is back. This is early. This is steel shafts and persimmon heads, and we got around to like the fourth hole. I'm playing pretty good for the day. I'm a couple under par, maybe making a run to backdoor top 10 somehow. We got to the fourth hole, and it was like 245 into the wind. It was heavy. It was a long shot, and I can't, back in those days, 45 into the wind, heavy, played more like 270. So I hit driver, and I hit a heck of a tee shot, and it went right by the hole, about 8 feet behind the hole. But it's going down the slope on the fourth hole, that round green. And so I'm got a chance to make a birdie here. So I hit this putt, and it kind of speed lipped, caught the top lip and sped out and went like 3 feet by. And of course I missed the next one. Those old Seaside Poana greens they kind of got a little bumpy, and, I'm walking up to the fifth tee, which is like right behind the tee. And I called myself, I mean, you stupid hole. But I'm looking up at the tee, and there's a marshal up on the tee, and he thought I called him a stupid a-hole. And I just he didn't say anything. Next thing I know, I get this letter in the mail explaining the whole thing, just like that. Walked up to the tee, looked at a marshal. You call him a stupid. And I said, well, first of all, I would never have done that. Not to him. I explained the deal, the whole situation. And I wrote it in, the whole thing. I sent the check, whatever it was, $1,500 or whatever. This
That's a
1,500
lot.
back then is a lot of money. Late 80s or whatever it was. And I explained it with it. Said, for all the times that I didn't get a fine, I'm going to pay this anyway. But here's how it went down. So that's how it went down. So that's the only time I had to pay a fine.
Were
I
you
ripped visors off my head. I was always a visor guy, the little, Velcro on the
Yep.
back. I'd take it and I'd rip it off. And I got a couple gloves, a couple of ripped gloves. And I was not very kind to myself. I never got mad at anything other than me. Even if I, was mad at my caddy or mad at something, or I always blamed myself. And I should have been nicer. I should have been nicer to myself.
Speaking of caddies, I asked you one time, because you see it all the time now, where the caddy has the yardage book, the player has a yardage book. They're both looking at it, and did you ever have a yardage book?
I've rarely carried a yardage book. Honestly, I carried a scorecard and a pin sheet, and sometimes I would carry like a wind chart. Like you'd
Okay.
get the pairings in the morning, I'd rip off all that, and I'd take the map, and then I would chart out the wind. And so I had a wind chart. Rarely did I have a book. I always thought that was my caddy's. I'm paying him to be good with that. I play myself by walking to the ball and looking at what is presented in front of me and taking in everything and knowing where the pin is, got the wind blowing. Okay. And then caddy walks up, sets the bag, down, and explains what we got, and off we go. That was my routine. And it was a consistent routine. One thing about Venturi, you have to have and maintain a consistent routine, especially on Sundays, especially that obviously you want everything to, be right, but you want to maintain that same routine. Caddy has to maintain the same routine as you've been doing. Otherwise, you don't want the caddy to put the bag down and go running around trying to find his marker, and then all of a sudden meet back up with you. And now you're all kind of, I knew it was going to be a 7-iron. What's all this about?
Yeah.
So it was always about caddy going to the marker, me going to the ball, maybe looking at something over here, a landmark, and then him coming to the ball. We discuss, and off we go. That was the routine. It drives me absolutely mad these days. When both the player and the caddy have a book, the player goes one way, the caddy goes another way. They kind of meet up. They look at the book. Then they finally look at where what's in front of them.
Right.
Now they got to decide what they're going to do. No wonder it takes 5.5 hours around to play these stupid. That's bizarre to me on how long it takes some of these players to decide on what club to hit, as they both have numbers and they have the shooter now too.
I know.
So it's like, gee, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Let's get your act together. I could save 30 minutes by giving a seminar on how to be ready to play a golf shot.
So you're saying you're not a fan of slow play? Is that what I'm reading into?
My average was about 14 seconds. You can ask any tour official. They've charted all my shot. Yeah, it was
So
about
you were
14 seconds.
Ludwig before Ludwig was even born.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, again, I learned from playing quick with my dad and his friends. If I didn't play fast, I couldn't play with them. If I didn't play fast, I could never play with Venturi.
That's
Ever.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Cookie, I could talk to you for hours,
We could do
which
volume.
we have actually done hours on the air and off the air, but there's a segment of this podcast that I call This Just In.
Mhm.
And this is like a rapid fire questions. So this is how I like to conclude each podcast. Favorite course you've ever played?
Favorite one?
Favorite one?
Cypress Point.
Okay. Top 5.
Cypress Point, Pine Valley, 1A. I would put Pebble in there, Royal Melbourne, and I would maybe Harbor Town.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was a very interesting top 5 that I was not expecting. Your best pro-am partner you ever had?
Oh boy, Jack Wagner's going to be mad because we won the AT&T together. I would have to say James Garner. James
Why?
Garner was my partner for about 6-8 years at Pebble Beach in the Crosby and the AT&T. He was the man. He was Maverick. He was Brett Maverick. He was James Rockford. He just was, and what a great guy and a good player. I miss that guy. We had so much fun playing golf together.
I can only imagine. How about your dream foursome?
Oh, that's pretty easy. That would be Jason, my son, my dad, Jim, and Ken Venturi.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good foursome right there.
Yeah. There could be a couple in a group behind me that would be great. I could drop back and play with like Ed Van Halen and a couple other people. That would be awesome.
How about your favorite Ohio State football player of all time?
Oh boy. Well, Archie was just out of school when I went there. When I got there, and I've seen him, at some games and run into him a bit. Besides my nephew, the quarterback, he played on the championship team. I'll tell you what, Braxton Miller was pretty tough. He was pretty tough. There's a lot of running backs. Eddie George was always, I remember way back in the day, Randy Gradishar played linebacker, and Rex Kern and all these guys. But Braxton Miller was probably my favorite. He was so electrifying and like so good at what he did.
I called his game in high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. I saw his game in high school and he made a run.
He from Dayton, maybe? Or where'd he come from?
Good question.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah.
I'm drawing a blank right now. I
Yeah.
can remember the booth. I can remember, it was a high school stadium. We'd have to walk up to the press box, and he just had this one run that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was impressive.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll leave you on this one. You guys just won the national championship. Best Ohio State football team.
The best one. Well, this team lost 2, so that can't be. They win the Natty. I got that, but they lost 2 games. Have to be the one that beat OJ and USC in the Rose Bowl in '69. That was Rex Kern, John Brockington, Gradishar, Tatum, Jack Tatum. These guys, they were undefeated and beat OJ in the Rose Bowl to win the national championship. Be hard pressed to find a better greatest team of all time. There's some other really great ones. A couple of those urban teams were pretty darn good. Trustle's team, but they were kind of underdogs. But it's that 68, 69 team. Some Hall of Famers.
I have one more question. Are you more excited about winning a national championship, or do you hate losing to Michigan more?
Hate losing to Michigan. 100% hate it. It's humiliation. It's more than just don't like, losing. This one was humiliating. This last one, every once in a while you can take a beat, this one was the most humiliating loss, I think, in OSU football history. Yeah, I can't imagine another one. Hey, you lose games, you lose big, you lose to good teams, you lose a national championship. Florida kicked our ass, and whatever year that was in 2005, I think, for the 04 season. But losing that way to that team that wasn't even good, oh my God! Well, kicked us in the butt. I know that.
It did. It jump-started you guys for a pretty good run.
Pretty good 4-game run after that. Not too bad. All top 5 teams. That's not too bad.
By the way, what this just told me is that you hate losing more than you like winning.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Losing.
It sucks.
Back in our day, you were supposed to be upset when you lost. It wasn't, oh, good try. Hey, good job.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be mad when you lost. I was always mad. Those practices on Saturday morning after losing a game on Friday night, you're supposed to be upset and mad. Yeah, it's just, no, losing. I hate losing.
That makes 2 of us. It drives me nuts.
Right.
I remember those losses more than I remember some wins. And
totally. I can tell you all about my losses.
Yeah. Well, maybe that'll be the next podcast.
There you go, right?
Yeah. Hey, Cookie, thank you so much for doing this. This is so much fun. I learned a lot. I miss you. Hope to see you soon, and hope to get back on the mic and also get back out on the golf course sometime soon.
Love it.